It's now day 38 of Bola Tinubu's presidency. We're keeping tabs on activities and developments in his first 100 days in office. Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. You can join the conversation now on Twitter. We ask the question, what's your assessment of President Tinubu's performance in his 1 month in office? Remember to use the hashtag first 100 days, tag at TVC News NG and at Nifemi Oguntoye, and we'll be taking your tweets in a short while. Let's bring you some updates right now from the presidential villa. Nigeria's president, Bola Tinubu, in what appears an attempt to ease the tax burden on businesses and individuals, has signed 4 executive orders, one of which is the suspension of the 5% excise tax on telecommunication services and excise duty on locally produced products. Special advisor to the president on special duties, communications and strategy, Dele Alake, announced this while addressing State House correspondents at the presidential villa in Abuja. He says the president also signed a date variation for the Finance Act order of 2023, which differs the commencement date of the changes contained in the Act from May 23 to September 1, 2023. President Tinubu also signed a variation to the Customs Excise Tariff Amendment Order of 2023, shifting the commencement date of the tax changes from March to August this year, and also in line with the national tax policy. So the president has ordered the suspension of the newly introduced green tax by way of excise tax on single-use plastics, including plastic containers and bottles, and ordered the suspension of import tax adjustment levy on certain vehicles. Dele Alake says the president issued these orders to ameliorate the negative impacts of the tax adjustments on businesses and households across affected sectors.
Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu promised to address business unfriendly fiscal policy measures and multiplicity of taxes. Consequently, President Bola Tinubu, in fidelity to the pledge to put Nigerians at the center of government policies, has signed the following executive orders. Executive Order 1, the Finance Act, Effective Date Variation Order 2023, has now deferred the commencement date of the changes contained in the Act from May 28, 2023 to September 1, 2023. This is to ensure adherence to the 90 days minimum advance notice for tax changes as contained in the 2017 National Tax Policy.
So what happens after the suspension expires by August, September? We'll find out shortly when we speak to our State House correspondent. But the president has also given his unwavering support to the National Population Commission for the conduct of an accurate population and housing census in the country. He emphasized the need for the commission to be prudent in their assignment and work towards producing census data that will be credible and reliable. Let's talk to State House correspondent Femi Akonde, who joins me live from the presidential villa. Femi, what's the import of these executive orders? How do they impact directly on the people? And what exactly is the president saying about multiple taxation?
Well, hi, Nifemi. Well, for now, it directly impacts business owners, manufacturers in the country. They will get a respite from what they have called multiple taxation. They are not comfortable with some of the tax policies introduced by government, not this present administration of Bola Tinubu. The previous administration introduced some of these policies, and they have been complaining about these taxations and how it inhibits the growth of their businesses. I know they have also taken this to the doorstep of President Bola Tinubu, and he has given ears to their complaints. And what people are saying, that what President Bola Tinubu has done is expected, because during his campaign and even during his inauguration, if you listen to his inaugural speech, he talked about issues of fiscal policies, taxations, and all of that. He said he was going to remove all obstacles that hinders the growth of businesses in the country. So he's just keeping to his words by signing these executive orders, and also the variation in the date of the implementation of the executive order, that is the Finance Act that was signed by President Muhammadu Buhari. You know, what he's saying is that there's supposed to be a window of 90 days before it comes into effect. Business owners are supposed to be given that period of grace to prepare, to adjust to the new tax laws, and also begin to also adjust their profit margin and all of that before it comes into full effect. You know, I particularly also asked what is the need for the consumers, because we know that a lot of these taxes, the cost of these taxes have been passed on to the consumers. I know the government says right now that relevant authorities will be communicated, and to ensure that consumers are protected, to ensure that prices of goods and services are also reasonably adjusted to conform with this new respite, this new breather that manufacturers, business owners, entrepreneurs, investment, both local and foreign, will now get following these executive orders signed by President Bola Tinubu. So the coming days will be quite exciting for business owners, and indeed they look forward to that. We're already hearing that a lot of them are celebrating this and giving President Bola Tinubu thumbs up. Nifemi.
I mean, this is basically adhering to the 90 days minimum advance notice you talked about, according to a 2017 Act. What happens when the suspension expires?
Well, then the law will come into full swing. These taxes will now be collected, because the business owners did not have that time to prepare to adjust to the new tax regime introduced by the federal government. But now that they have that time, they have that grace, they would of course put all of that into consideration, make good preparation for the start of this new tax policy by the federal government. But let's also bear in mind that just two of these executive orders are variations in the date of implementation. That is the Finance Act and the Custom Excise Tariff, the Custom Excise Tariff Amendment Order 2023. These ones, the dates have been varied. The dates in the implementation have been varied. But the President also gave an order suspending 5% excise tax on telecommunications services. You already know that subscribers have been complaining about the plans by telecoms operators to increase tariff. And they have been different advocacies and different pressure piling on the government and relevant authorities to prevail on telecom operators not to increase this tariff, because it might become unbearable for the subscribers and the consumers. And he also said further, to create the business-friendly environment, the president also ordered the suspension of newly introduced green tax by way of excise tax on single-use plastic, including plastic containers and bottles. He also ordered the suspension of import tax adjustment levy on certain grade of vehicles from the 20cc capacity upward. He also suspended the import tax on all of these vehicles. So we expect market forces to begin to react to these new orders signed by President Bola Tinubu in the coming days. Nifemi.
So in April, thereabout, the National Population Commission talked about postponing the National Population and Housing Census. Do we expect a new date soon, now that the new president has given the commission a nod? Femi, I'm asking if we expect a new date soon for the National Population and Housing Census, now that it seems President Tinubu has given a nod.
You were asking about the meeting between President Bola Tinubu and officials from the National Population Commission. Well, he welcomes them into his office. They gave him a brief about their level of preparedness to conduct the national head count. That was supposed to be done in the dying days of the former administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. But that had to be put on hold and postponed for several reasons because of the timing and all of that, and the country was going through a transition period. I knew they agreed that a new date will be fixed by President Bola Tinubu's administration. But well, President Bola Tinubu is saying that indeed census is very important. The last one we had in the country was in 2006, and this is one of the reasons why national growth and development has been quite slow, because there is no data, there are no statistics for the government to work with, for the government to be able to plan for citizens to know who gets what, to know the needs assessment of the citizens. So he is saying that, well, in due course, that headcount will definitely be done, because his government is interested in improving the well-being and welfare of citizens. And it is with this data that will be provided by the NPC, the National Population Commission, that will be that blueprint to national growth and development. He also encouraged them and appreciated the way they have used technology to improve on how they plan, how they intend to carry out this headcount, because they say this will be the first time technology will be introduced. It's going to be a digital census. Yes, it's coming at a huge cost, but they say in subsequent headcounts, the country will not have to spend that much anymore to conduct the census. Nifemi.
The presidential villa, good to see you, Femi. After the break, I'll be joined by the executive chairman of the Solo Local Council Development Area, Bayo Olasoju, as we explore the role of local government and its administration under the Tinubu presidency. Stay with us. You're watching First 100 Days. Let's get some feedback from our viewers on Twitter. We asked the question, what's your assessment of President Tinubu's performance in his 1 month in office? And of course, here are some of the responses on Twitter. At Daily Taju says, President Tinubu is known with positively and radically turning things around. However, should harp more on exemplary living by government functionaries. The plight of workers and indeed general populace should be addressed promptly. And also we had April 2 at Dami_J saying President Tinubu's great decisions at the takeoff of his administration show that there is still hope for the nation. He also says the Special Advisor on Revenue is doing a great job to revive the economy. Yusuf Kahu is of the opinion that he says, well done. I like to convey the happiness of the entire youth in Southern Kaduna for your inclusive pattern of appointment so far. We trust you with this country and hope good health and the best for the country. He also says the mass defection is coming. For Anima Shaun Azilari, the president has started well. He prays he's not distracted because it's the man for the job. I would also like him to introduce price control agency in Nigeria, because people just change prices as they like. Hashtag first 100 days, and he wants them prices to be maintained. Well, it's different stroke for different folks. For Faduri Oluwadare Joseph, he says it's more difficult for ordinary citizens now. Prices of things have gone 100% high. Life is tough for people to move around. Food prices off the roof, no palliative for ordinary citizens, and no help from government. 37 days, it's now 38, after announcing subsidy removal with no wage increase for workers. Let's turn now to Eliligo Unamdi, who says Tinubu's 37 days in office so far, so good. Decisions taken so far aren't common, though not without some pains, but sacrifices must be made for a new Nigeria to emerge. I'm impressed he's on the right track. May God make him succeed. This is from Atunweke_Mario. I boarded a bike today from Marine Beach to Ojota. The bikeman gave me price. Omo, I was like, let the poor breathe. Okay, remember that, right? The next one is from Okesojo Akim, who says President Tinubu has started as expected of him. He should pay more attention on security by giving the service chiefs a key performance index. This can be used to judge themselves before being judged by citizens. Guanto Amos Tatium says is impressed, very impressed rather, with what the president has done so far, from the removal of subsidy to the appointment of service chiefs. Some strategies for unifying the country as open door, like the open door policy, and giving a listening ear to the opposition needs to be studied. Now let's turn our attention to Amona Shegun Mashiano, who says Nigeria is heading for a promising future, one that won't take long to be seen or be felt because the president is active and determined. It says that the first 100 days is a sign of good days ahead. Unifying the country is one thing I want President Tinubu to continue with. God bless Nigeria. Join the conversation right now. Remember, you can use the hashtag first 100 days. Remember to tag at TVC News NG and at Nifemi Oguntoye. Let's talk about the grassroots, which is a very critical component of any government to achieve developmental goals. Recall that just before the 2023 February presidential election, President Bola Tinubu was on a door-to-door campaign within the wards of the 774 local government areas across the country, reaching out to the grassroots to help achieve his renewed hope mandate. So what's he doing differently at the grassroots, particularly with the removal of fuel subsidy? How is the local government, which is the closest to the people, coping and also helping in cushioning the effect on residents? I'm joined now by Executive Chairman, the Solo Local Council Development Area, Honorable Bayo Olasoju. Thank you for joining us on the program. I want us to begin with the economic reality of the people in your local government area aftermath the removal of fuel subsidy. What's the feeler you're getting?
Good evening. The fuel subsidy removal is not too easy because we are used to things being cheap. But now, because the people know the adverse effect of the subsidy on the economy itself, we have to borrow to cushion the effect of the subsidy. And if you look at when the subsidy was removed, actually a lot of us were expecting a lot of cries, a lot of noise. But the people appraised it because they saw the genuineness and the sincerity of Mr. President in the removal. And everybody is trying to adjust to what we have now.
So, the pressure is now on state government and, local government, or let's say LCDAs like yours, to step up in the area of intervention. So some government talked about reducing the number of work hours, rolling out, free transportation for the people within the local government areas. Have you started any programs yourself in that regard?
Yes. We try to prioritize those who work in our council system by doing, by going with what the state government is doing, reducing the price of buses for them, trying to push in on the welfare. But the people are really adjusting to that. They know when to move, they know when not to move. And in the terms of welfare, we try to, like in my council, we have been doing what we call care for the elderly, those who are older, 60 years and above before. But we try to bring it down now to 50 years so that people can really feel it. And that's what we're doing now. Most times, some even do work from home now because of the effect of the transport fare and so forth, so forth. But we are trying to cushion the effect as a local government, which is the closest to the grassroots.
So when you say the people are adjusting to the new reality, do you think you're speaking for majority of the people? Because a few of the tweets we read earlier talked about, increase in transportation fare. An individual mentioned the fact that the inflation for food prices, according to him, are off the roof. And they are worried about, the federal government's position on intervention. Talk to me about what you think is the reality of majority of the people at the grassroots, particularly economic-wise, and how they've been able to forge ahead with the reality of pricing at the market.
Well, like I said earlier, because we are the closest to the grassroots, the reality will come more to the local government. The woman who sells fish in the market, we say government. The woman who does sell pure water, we say government. But the truth is, even the federal government who is bringing out this policy is looking at ways to cushion in the effect down the line. One, we have stepped up our food bank in ensuring our people, especially the vulnerable ones, are not going through much of that stress of the increase. And if you see what people are writing now, that there should be pricing commission to stabilize prices. People take opportunity. You increase fuel by 10 naira, people increase the prices of, these are not government policies, but individuals. So it's not just about the government, it's about individual understanding too that the government starts with you and does not end with you. So the government are formulating policies on how to cushion the effect. If you look at our governor now, he's doing everything to ensure and equally tasking the local government that told my line of relieving the people from this, but I know we'll get over it. Once we stabilize with this removal, there will be government policies that will influence pricing, that will influence even the welfare of the people.
A lot have been said about the need for the local government to take its place effectively as the closest to the people. We've also had the conversation about autonomy, which was rejected by majority of state governments last year. But what are your expectations under the Tinubu administration?
Well, I will say this. President Tinubu is a grassroots politician who feels the pulse of the people from. That's why, like what you just spoke about, his campaign, he took it from local government to local government, ward to ward. When he was governor, he was imagining the vastness of Lagos. And that's why he created the LCD, so that the government can be taken closer to the people. In Lagos State, for example, you see that local government make roads, local government build health centers, local government are involved in every facet of infrastructural development. In some other states, you might not have it that way because he has that idea of what he wanted about the grassroots development. And that's what we're having. So for me, I strongly believe in Mr. President that the local government administration will improve because he knows how our people are feeling about their pains, their fears, and how to improve their well-being and livelihood. And that's what we are doing in Lagos. That's why Lagos is the pace setter in anything that has to be done properly and done well. Thank you.
Precisely what would you say to those Nigerians who are concerned that 38 days after removing fuel subsidy, we're yet to hear from Abuja as regards federal government's intervention?
Well, to me, except to expecting magic, and I can tell you, Mr. President is not a magician. For every step, they know that some effect will come up. If you look at what is happening now, they are trying to bring in policies that will cushion in the effect of the removal of the subsidy. All I will say is that we should be patient, we should tolerate a little more. The good days are just at the back of our legs.
Honorable Bayo Lasoju is the Executive Chairman of Solo Local Council Development Area in Lagos. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
And that's our show today. You can watch a repeat broadcast at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi. You're going to remember to join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag #first100days. See you again at 7 p.m.